Hi guys, welcome back to our podcast. A few weeks ago we met with Jill and Jill, the owners of a sustainable fashion and art business based on Grafton Street in Dublin, and here's what they told us.
It is going to be expensive, but you got to look at the longevity and to that price tag. And we also feel that sustainable doesn't also have to be brand new. It's all about revisiting what you already have and seeing if you can actually utilize things that you have maybe bought in the past that can rejuvenate themselves in terms of giving it a new lease of life. Like Jill and myself went into really trying to make our own paper, so we used a lot of materials that we probably would have thrown out, and paid a little bill with Thornton's for recycling when we can actually shred it down ourselves. Take a bit of time, but it, you know, and it made beautiful paper that we could print on. So it, you know, that piece has now has its own price tag, I guess, which is expensive, but it was affordable, very much free for us to make it and use it. So
I think also, like, there's a whole other discussion to be had with why sustainable products seem expensive. They seem expensive because we're used to disposable fashion and how cheap it is. So if you take disposable fashion out of the mix, that's the price that you would have always paid for clothes. So it's kind of understanding that. It's like, if someone says, oh, you spent 60 quid on a t-shirt, why didn't you just go to Pennies and buy one for 2.50? It's kind of understanding the story and the journey, I suppose, that those two t-shirts went on and where they eventually will end up. What are you more willing to dispose of? Probably the Pennies t-shirt of 2.50 because it has no value to you. Whereas the t-shirt of 60 quid, you can, you know, monetize that in how much you had to work to get that and all those things. So I think sustainable fashion seems expensive, but it's because we're so used to the disposable economy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're kind of saying just understand the cost, and that makes it kind of make more sense.
Yeah.
So that really kind of links into the next question we we're going to ask, which is, like, in your opinion, what's the best way to increase the amount of sustainable purchases in Ireland?
Oh wow. Well, I suppose there's the single use or, you know, taxes and things like that, obviously, which is a whole other conversation and debate in itself. But I suppose when it comes down to coffee cups would be an example where I think it became a lifestyle choice. It became a brand choice for a lot of coffee shops. It became kind of, it said something about you. It said something about how you respected maybe yourself or the planet. So I think it's definitely a mind shift, and it's, I think it needs to be kind of a behavioral thing for a lot of people, for them to choose to be more sustainable in what they buy.
Yeah, and even as business owners, again, we didn't when we have now sustainable products or garments that are 100% organic cotton, we didn't set out to make sure that we were a sustainable company. It just was, I guess, our own ethos and our own values that we were like, it only feels right to do it. Where now there's a lot of pressure for business brands, products that are being developed, that is a box that has to be ticked. And people are changing their ways now about it, even when it comes down to anything from skin products to hair products to, you know,
even to shoes, like you see. But again, you're back into that conversation about it being the price point jumps up. So it's like, why would you choose to go vegan Stan Smiths when the just regular leather ones are more, you know, are cheaper? But it's back to just educating yourself over the product's journey and what you're going to do with that product once you're finished with it as well.
Yeah, thanks. And we were just wondering if your business receives any government funding.
No. No. Sorry. We've reached out and we've got bursaries and grants and stuff for things like it's called the online training voucher and things like that, but we don't receive any government funding, grants or bursaries.
That's a whole other conversation, ladies, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's a lot of red tape.
Yeah, they don't make it very easy to fill out forms and that, and it can be quite confusing, and the websites are not user friendly for stuff like that.
in the arts and creative industry. If we were a startup app tech company, they'd be groveling at our feet, but we're not. we're working in the craft, creative design maker industry, and unfortunately Silicon Valley has topped us over the years.
But even at that, it's a blurred line because we're quite commercial as well with our apparel. So we're not fully fine art. We are, but they, you know, if we were just fine art print, I think we might get accepted onto some grants, but because we're quite commercial as well, they're like, you don't really tick that box either. So we just fund ourselves. We just keep doing it, keep the wheel turning, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of links into what we were going to ask you next, which was like, just for people, because we're trying to raise a lot of awareness kind of within businesses and our own locality, like for people like yourselves who are thinking of setting up a business or thinking about making sustainability a part of that, like what would be your advice to those people?
Well, listen, there now, you know, with the pandemic and everything, there's a lot of content online. It was there before, but you would usually go to a talk or go to an event, but there's so much content online. So first and foremost, do your research, talk to other people who have gone through the experience or the steps.
Do this.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before we would have been so reliant on actually having to physically meet somebody.
Yeah.
And for a business owner, a lot of the time that could have just been just not a possibility. But like now you don't have to just reach out to Irish companies. If you need to, you could probably try and get yourself a call with Stella McCartney herself. If you know what I mean? Like there's that kind of, you know what I mean, that there's so much platforms as well you can utilize, you know, across the board. And but so much free information, webinars, Zooms, everything is available, even more so now than it was. And probably you would get funding from an R&D perspective if you had a product that could be potentially turned into a more sustainable solution or something like that. So like that's where when it comes to starting a business and starting a product-based business, it being a very sustainable product, there definitely is a lot more in terms of grants and
it's a big box to tick. And the grants are available for if that is solely the ethos of your product. But before COVID, we were doing a lot of talks ourselves, and the only thing we would ever talk about in our talks is things that we failed at, which wasn't failure, but it was just what we learned from those steps. Because, you know, at the end of the day, failure is still an action and it's a positive one and you're going to learn from it. So we always said to ourselves, if we were, you know, back in college, which was 10 years ago plus, we would have loved to have gone to these talks, because I think we wouldn't have had the very wide careers that we both had, and then we're now at this point. I know everything happens for a reason, but we would have to, and we still do, reach out to our peers, not just in our sector, in completely other different fields, because at the end of the day, everyone's trying to run a business. It doesn't matter what you're making or selling. So you'll learn from each other.
Yeah, I think that's we haven't really, because we've been talking to a lot of businesses recently and we really haven't heard that. Like, I feel like people don't really think that things are so much more accessible now more than ever. That's actually something really interesting we've never came across. So thanks for that.
Yeah, like we were on a talk yesterday. We listened to a talk in America somewhere. Jill just happened to see it online and just signed us up.
Yeah, it was a branding agency, but they kind of were really honing in on kind of the pandemic, but it was for retailers.
Yeah, and the consumer and stuff. And but like we would have never, if they had they would have just physically done that somewhere in San Francisco, and we would have never gone to it, obviously. But join in. So, you know what I mean? I think that you need to just, like, you know, sometimes you probably have to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to listen to it if it's in America. But it's so much more accessible now because everyone's just doing everything virtually.
Yeah, there are advantages to everything, like.
Yeah, big time.
We were wondering, in the coming years, what are the hopes for your business and sustainable clothing markets in Ireland?
Clothing wise, I think we will always keep doing the clothing, but it will never be kind of the sole focus of Jill and Jill, because we love to set challenges. So we have ideas that we'd like to, again, is on the sustainable route, but it's about bringing kind of reclaimed furniture, old pieces back to life and giving it you know, a really fun, like, we love stories, so we'd love to know where that piece maybe came from, and then if it's possible to like actually, you know, strip it back and then print on it and paint it and do all sorts, and it becomes this iconic, unique piece then, and it has the next journey wherever it ends up. So it's something that we're starting to research now, and we'll probably just spend that year really doing the hard groundwork on it and see where it goes.
In terms of fashion or even clothing in Ireland, I think it started already in terms of the mindset of the consumer. You know, our neighbor here, Topshop, will be gone. You know what I mean? It'll be gone. There will be no Topshop. It not, I think, in itself, as much as that's a huge brand and it'll be a huge loss for so many people's jobs, it's one of those things that's kind of just highlighted something, I think, for a lot of people. I know Debenhams and things like that were gone, but the English marketplace was a huge contributor to fast fashion. And those businesses being removed from the landscape of Ireland, and say Grafton Street in general, and the likes of more smaller business being given opportunity, I think the consumer will see a benefit in kind of, you know, their behaviors will change because it's accessible to them. So if you put a small handmade soap business on Grafton Street, there's more than likely that people will decide to just go in and buy the soap in there and not order it online, or not, you know, it's just mindsets and just putting it in the kind of immediate accessible. And there is that kind of the landscape of kind of the bricks and mortar stores, that's, I think, is going to change. It's kind of back to that understanding of the appreciation of what's in your locality, understanding where the local produce comes from. And that, again, is just been because we've been restricted to our 5K. So, you know what I mean, your local coffee shop that you never knew was there is now probably like the only thing you do on a daily basis is go and you queue at it, and you'll happily do that. And you feel a sense of pride because they're going to still be there, and thankfully Starbucks in town is probably going to close, and will make way for another small coffee shop to move in. And it sounds so mean of me to say all that, but I suppose we've been given the opportunity as a small Irish business to put ourselves on Grafton Street, Stephen's Green, and we've seen the customer behavior when they come in and they listen to us talk about our brand and our product, and the idea of the price tag you know, they could have gone into Topshop and bought a t-shirt for 30 quid, but they decided to spend 60 euro with us. And they're not moaning about it, you know what I mean? They feel a sense of pride, they're passionate, they're like, this is so cool, I'm so delighted I came in here. And then they leave and they tell somebody else, and I think that the whole kind of landscape of Irish brands and fashion in general is changing because of what we've all been like restricted, or you know what I mean, like there's back to that, what you just said, like the sense of opportunity and such in a pandemic.
Yeah, that's actually, because that was going to link into the next thing I was going to say about what would you recommend for consumers that want to become more sustainable.
Well, yeah, like, listen, you know, I would see what is in your own town, village, you know, support your butcher, your veg store, whatever. And a lot of them you'd bring your own containers anyway for something like that. So
it's not so much like what you need to do more of, it's more just what you do and just revise it and think, you know what I mean? When I get up in the morning and I brush my teeth, how sustainable am I when I do that? You know what I mean? It's just those type of things. And then maybe, you know what I mean? And then obviously it comes down to how cost effective it is. And then also, you know what I mean? There's all those factors. It's not like tomorrow morning we need everyone to just completely buy Banbury toothbrushes and just buy, you know, carpet capsules and only use refiltered water bottles and all this type of stuff. It's more just like, what do I do? You know what I mean? If you're always buying water bottles in a shop and you're always binning them, just go buy a reusable water bottle. It's just, you know what I mean? It's mindsets and those type of things. So I think it's less about adding things. It's more just about just look what I do on a daily basis and how do I change my habits. Small steps.
So changing the little habits can make a big difference in the end. So is what you're kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
And we were also kind of wondering, like, let's say, like, do you know, like, when you source materials for your clothes or for your prints, or do you source them in Ireland or do you get them manufactured abroad?
They're manufactured abroad. So the cotton comes from India, and then we work with 7 different factories in Bangladesh that are all under Fair Wear Foundation. So if you probably have come across the Fairwear Foundation.
Yeah.
And they're also the like down to the dyes and things like that for any of the different colors. So everything in terms of like where the water goes, so like into the land, back into the land. So everything's certified by, it's all vegan friendly as well. And then we work with a distributor in Belgium, partly because Brexit.
Yeah.
So away from the UK, and then everything travels across land, which currently right now is killing us.
Yeah, by ship.
And
it's
like there's always the option to fly, but it's just too expensive, and also just obviously defeats the previous journey that the t-shirt has been on.
Yeah.
And then when it arrives here, we hand print and screen print everything here in our studios in Francis Street. And I get all our inks and things like that. They all come from Italy. And majority of our paper does come from Italy.
Yeah.
We do source some from the UK. And there is, and then as just said, if given the opportunity, we'll make the paper ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's somewhat traceability on everything. It's extremely time consuming, and like basically could take you 2 days just to fulfill, you know, some of our orders that we have to do. But the other, like, it's just the alternative is back to just fast fashion. It's just like get a t-shirt from wherever and send it off to somebody else and get them to print it.
Yeah.
And it's just I suppose
it just doesn't sit well with
makes
us.
my body crawl.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think our followers and our customers are really understanding that now. It's not that we don't preach that we're sustainable, you know, it's written on the tag. Like, people know about it when they buy it, or if they come in and they chat to us, or if they watch our social. Every so often we'll talk about that journey. But we want, like Jill said, we'll never veer off just for convenience, or because a customer is like, you know, why are you taking so slow to get it? It's just like, this is the reason why. And, you know, once you get your product, it is going to last you a lifetime, because it is well made, and but there's blood, sweat and tears been put into it, including ourselves. So you know, we will just always make sure that we stay on that track, because they're our values.
Yeah, that's actually something really nice that we notice is with every sustainable kind of business we've spoken to, they all know where their products come from, exactly where. Like, they can be like, yeah, this is where we get everything. And you can't speak to any other kind of business and ask, where do you get these pieces? And they wouldn't know off the top of their head. Oh, I wouldn't know that. But everyone in the sustainable business kind of sector seems to know exactly where everything is coming from. It's very nice to see.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't you, like, you know, if you were eating a meal, wouldn't you want to know where that, like, you know, your thing in your plate was from? Like, you'd be like, what am I eating? You know, you don't go to a restaurant and be like, oh, I'll just have that, and not know it's chicken or meal or fish. You know,
you also feel more enjoyable about your meal if you obviously we don't want to know exactly the cow's name and how it's spent its days, but or her days. You know, this, like, you want to, you know, that this was, you know, organically farmed and
Daisy was treated really well and had a great life, and, you know,
sorry,
had all.
I know if either of you are vegan.
I hope you're not vegan. We love our meat, but, like, you know, it's. I just do think it's important. Like, you wouldn't order anything random that looks weird.
It's facts that if you buy a pack of carrots from Tesco, you know what I mean, and they've been cleaned and washed, they're manicured carrots, and then you go down, you know, and then you pull carrots out of your,
and they're dirty,
you know, and they look like they've got hair growing out of it and everything, but like what's going to taste nicer when you just eat it right now, there and then? You'll know the difference. But it's just funny, and it's back to that whole thing. It's like, it's been Tesco manicured that completely for you. Like, it's the bougiest looking carrot ever, but actually this is what you really want to be eating. It's better for you. But it's funny.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
Yeah, so in kind of the last kind of question we had was, in terms of your gender, age demographics, like, who do you find buying your products most?
Oh, it varies. Like, we had a 12-year-old girl come in, and she wanted a panty t-shirt. Grand, she got it. We thought it was a gift for her mom or sister, older sister. No, it was for herself. Then we have an 85-year-old woman who wants to come in and buy not the small Iris Apfel sweater. She's tiny. But she's like, no, I want a double XL because I'm wearing my yoga pants. And I was like, we love you. You're amazing. Like, so it varies from male, female, children, grandparents. all gender, doesn't matter. Yeah,
like if you need a statistic or like our analytics on Instagram would say it's age 35 to 45, female, 85% of her, you know what I mean? It's female and predominantly she's Irish, you know what I mean? And but it's from the customer that comes into the shop and we get to talk to, it's
all walks of life. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, thanks. So I think that's pretty much all our questions, but we just wanted to say a huge thanks because you've really assisted with our project and it's made a huge difference.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Yeah,
actually
really
been really nice talking to you as well. Like,
That's good.
cool.
Well, best of luck in the project. Hope you do well.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Dawn.
Thank you so much.
And we will leave you to it. And thank you again. And have a good weekend.
Yeah,
Thanks Thanks so much for your help.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you learned a bit more about the sustainable fashion industry in Ireland. Next week, we'll be talking to the Useless Project, a sustainable fashion initiative which spreads both education and awareness about fast fashion. Thanks for listening. We'll see you then.